Welcome to CBC Windsor News at 6. I'm Meg Roberts. Thanks so much for spending part of your evening with us tonight. The search continues for two young people officials believe drowned while swimming at Sandpoint Beach. Plus, there may be disruptions at some borders this summer after border workers vote in favor of strike action. And there's disappointment today as a historic building which had big redevelopment plans was destroyed by an early morning fire. Divers are searching for the bodies of two men who are believed to have drowned after wading into water west of Sandpoint Beach. The CBC's Dale Mullner has more.
CBC News has learned one of the two presumed drowning victims is 26-year-old Yogesh Bujgai. Windsor police say they were called to the area shortly after 7 p.m. last night. Officials say two men were in the water when they suddenly went under and did not resurface. The area is marked off as being dangerous. The city says there have been 6 drownings here since 1986. Bujgai's uncle says he's a hard-working breadwinner for his family.
He was taking care of his siblings as well as his mom is not in good health. Her health has been ruined since many years. So he was one of the supportive members of the family.
They were really depending on him.
Right. Now because of this tragic situation, family is in lots of suffering.
He says Bujgai is originally from Nepal and worked in a factory and was now a Canadian living in Windsor. According to friends, the other man was Indian and a graduate from computer science at St. Clair College. The city has a proposal to move this beach further east down the road, but it's still in the planning stages. Councillor Angelo Marignani, who represents this ward, says he's going to push City Council to try to speed this process up to get this project done sooner.
So the environmental assessment has been completed. The detailed engineering plans should be coming in late this year or early 2025, and that will detail all the expenses, everything that's needed to switch the beach from the west end to the east end. I'm pushing forward to having that done sooner than later. Next year, it will be my job to ensure that monies are pushed forward. And because it is slotted for 2028 or 2029, and it's just too long.
Community activist Greg LeMay says the beach should be closed immediately.
It's clearly not safe. Obviously, it's marked off, sure, but you got to remember, a lot of folks too, they might not be able to, understand the language, or they're not reading the signs right. Obviously, as we become more diverse as a community.
It's not going to stop people from going in the water. What it's going to do is it's going to remove the safety elements of the beach.
LeMay suggests leaving the beach open but restricting access to the water and reducing fees at the aquatic center. Meanwhile, Yogesh's uncle also wants to see the beach moved as soon as possible. Dale Molnar, CBC News, Windsor.
Border and Customs officers could go on strike as early as next month. Workers with the Canada Border Service Agency have voted 96% in favor of job action. They want to address issues surrounding wages, remote work, and retirement benefits, among others. A strike date hasn't been set, but the union anticipates being in a legal strike position in early June. 90% of border officers are considered essential and can't walk off the job. But job action could cause major disruptions to the flow of goods, services, and people at ports of entry. 3 years ago, job action resulted in major delays at airports and borders nationwide. An agreement was reached after a 36-hour bargaining session. And it's no surprise a potential strike could have implications here in Windsor. The CBC's Dawson Chen on what this would mean locally.
Thinking about visiting the U.S. this summer? You might have to prepare for long delays on your return. With more than 9,000 Canadian border workers ready for strike action, international crossings in our region could soon be brought to a near standstill, crippling tourism and trade for Windsor, Essex and beyond. That's something the president of the Customs and Immigration Union is well aware of.
We're hopeful that we can avoid a strike. It's always a last resort. We have mediation coming up on June 3rd. We're hopeful that we can get somewhere there. Our demands at the bargaining table are not anything outrageous. We're asking for to be brought up to the salary level of the greater law enforcement community. We're on the bottom end now.
Weber says the essential nature of border services means his members must resort to work-to-rule tactics instead of full work stoppages. The last time CIU members did this was in 2021, when commercial vehicles at the bridge and the tunnel saw wait times as long as 10 hours. But with CBSA officers working on an expired contract for the past 2 years, Weber feels the federal government is forcing the union's hand.
If worse comes to worse in June, I see significant slowdowns at our borders. I've spoken with Windsor members specifically, and they are absolutely ready to go further than they did last time. That's unfortunate. We're doing everything we can to avoid that. As I said, it's a last resort. We take great pride in our jobs.
Meanwhile, the Prime Minister says the federal government is fully committed to reaching a fair and reasonable contract.
We know when it comes to CBSA, the work they do is extremely important and extremely difficult, and we recognize the hard work that they do every day, keeping Canada safe at our borders. But we also know that the best labor agreements happen at the bargaining table, and that's exactly where the ministers are focused, and we will continue to do that.
The Public Interest Commission is expected to release an independent report with recommendations at the end of the month. Mediation between both sides is scheduled for June 3rd. Dawson Chen, CBC News, Windsor.
A fire has destroyed a notorious dive bar that was set to become a boutique hotel on Wyandotte. This was the scene at Wyandotte and Parent earlier this morning. Dozens of firefighters tried to fight back the flames throughout the day. No one was injured, and the cause is still unknown. This multi-story building has sat vacant for years, but the owner recently announced big plans to create a unique small-capacity hotel in the space. He says he's devastated by the fire.
We had some great plans for the building to bring it back to its former glory, create a boutique hotel upstairs, a lobby on the main floor, restaurant on the main floor, themed restaurant, Mexican cuisine, done right up, something you'd see in Toronto or another major city. And they actually had an old speakeasy in the basement that we were hoping to bring back as well. So we had a lot of plans for the building, things were moving along, and this is just a huge disappointment. I got the call around 4:30 and rushed over. It was hard to see, and at first it didn't look like a major fire, but after hours and hours of fighting the fire, the building came down. It was really sad. We felt the impact that it had on the community, and we're hoping to bring that back. So if we do get the opportunity, we'd love to continue our project here and rebuild what once was.
There's some concern here in Canada following the second human case of bird flu in the U.S., the most recent instance being a farm worker in Michigan. Still, the Canadian Food Inspection Agency says the latest strain of H5N1 has yet to show up in this country in animals or humans. The virus has been spreading among more animals since 2020. The detection in U.S. livestock earlier this year was an unexpected discovery, sparking questions about food safety and whether it could impact humans. One way officials are trying to monitor if the bird flu is present in our community is through our wastewater. The University of Windsor is one of 13 academic institutions in Ontario that's doing just that.
I mean, the good news right now is that we have no indication of any highly pathogenic avian influenza circulating amongst dairy cattle in Canada, as opposed to the U.S., where I think as of earlier this week, there were 15 dairy herds across the U.S. that were infected, 9 of which were in the state of Michigan. Any dairy cattle that are transported or imported into Canada are tested. So there's a negative testing for HPA1 that needs to be done before, and then they're monitored once they're here. So we do have checks and balances in place.
This is a trail in the South Cameron woodlot. The area is known for its wetland that's home to endangered species. Council will be asked to approve a new trail system in the lot on Monday. It will cost $2.6 million, and the project would move forward in phases. For a closer look at the trail system and why one nearby homeowner says he's not a fan, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. The Ford government is speeding up its timeline for allowing convenience stores in this province to sell alcohol. The province is also giving the owners of the beer store more than $200 million as part of the deal. The CBC's senior reporter at Queen's Park, Mike Crawley, has the story.
Premier Doug Ford, who doesn't drink, is about to widen access to booze in Ontario.
We're getting it done faster. In fact, we're getting it done starting this summer.
Starting August 1st, grocery stores that are already licensed will be allowed to sell beer in cases, plus ready-to-drink cocktails. From September 5th, up to 8,000 convenience stores get the chance to sell booze. Then at the end of October, all grocery stores become eligible, including big box supermarkets like Walmart and Costco.
The largest transformation of Ontario's alcohol marketplace since the end of Prohibition nearly 100 years ago.
As part of the deal, the government is giving the multinational brewers that own the beer store $225 million. Ford says it's to protect jobs.
So it's not going into the big breweries' pockets or anything like that. It's going to the frontline people and who we support.
The beer store's end of the bargain? It must keep open at least 300 locations and continue running the recycling program. But come 2026, big supermarkets that aren't within 5 kilometers of a beer store will have to take back empties.
That's not how our grocers are set up here in Ontario, so that's the big problem with the announcement.
Still, grocers are getting full access to sell beer, wine, cider, and premixed drinks, and they can undercut the LCBO on price.
We aren't going to dictate to them what they sell, their beer or their wine, no different than a loaf of bread. That's going to be up to them.
Neither Ford nor his officials would say how much all these changes will cost the LCBO in foregone revenue. Industry insiders believe it will amount to hundreds of millions of dollars each year. Convenience stores see the move as a long-awaited lifeline.
I think definitely there will be a lot more foot traffic that will be coming looking for beers and things like that.
And the craft beer sector is certainly toasting the news.
It's great. More distribution, the better for us craft brewers.
And it's overwhelmingly popular. Overwhelmingly. I've never seen numbers this high before.
That popularity is driving speculation that Ford could call an early election. Reporters asked him 3 times today if he'll stick with Ontario's fixed election date of June 2026. Each time, he refused to answer. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Well, no complaints here. We've had a beautiful week of weather. Victor Paulo is going to tell us if that is going to stick around for this weekend.
Meg, happy Friday. Happy Friday to all as we do look ahead to the weekend. Now, we are expecting some rain to fall over the Windsor region all the way from overnight into about midday on Saturday. Now, how much rain is going to fall? Well, we're expecting closer to around 15 millimeters by the time we're halfway through Saturday. But once that rain passes, we are in store for a sunny weekend all the way through to about Sunday overnight into your Monday, where the rain will return, and it's definitely going to be a heavier system than the one passing by overnight tonight into your tomorrow morning. Now, average temperatures for today's May 24th on this lovely Friday. 22.2 is your average high, and of course 10.9 is your average low. So looking at today's highs of around 28 and your lows of 18, we're almost 10 degrees above seasonal. But we're expecting temperatures to drop back down to seasonal by the time we arrive to Monday next week. Now here's that system that is passing by when it comes to your overnight into your Saturday midday. And you can see as we get into Sunday, it's going to be a more cloudy day right around 2 o'clock than we've been seeing a lot of the times this week. We had a pretty strong high pressure system, which is over Windsor for Thursday. As you did see, there was not a lot of cloud cover, but as you see what's happening on Sunday, not only will there be cloud cover, but also following up with all of those clouds will be some rain passing by. Now, how much rain again are we going to be seeing by the time it's going to be Saturday morning around 7? Well, we talked about it being closer to around 15 millimeters, and as we get ahead in towards your weekend, you can see that the majority of the areas aren't going to get that much outside of 15, except for when it comes to what's coming on Monday. Now, tomorrow is going to be another day where it's a high of 25 degrees, a beautiful day here in Windsor. As you do take a look at our 3- and 5-day forecast for what else is in store, well, a bit of rain that we're going to be expecting overnight tonight till about halfway through your Saturday, but the rest of your Saturday is going to be very beautiful and a nice day to be outdoors. A sunny weekend in store. Now, your Sunday is going to be a high of 22 degrees, a low of 16, but as we get in towards your Monday, your Tuesday, and your Wednesday, unfortunately, we have some precipitation coming our way, but you know what? You got to balance things out with that great week of sunshine that we had this week. It's good to get a little bit of rain in there because the grass and the plants need it. Hope you have yourselves a lovely weekend, and over to you, Meg.
Next Tuesday, CBC Windsor is taking our show on the road. We're going to be broadcasting live from downtown Windsor at 6 o'clock. We take a deep dive into the issues the Corps faces while seeking analysis on the city's plan to fix it. Our show will feature live guests with a variety of perspectives and stories. That's happening this Tuesday, May 28th at 6 p.m. right here on CBC Windsor News. It's Friday, which means we have Josiah Sinanen on the show for his Week's End segment. Stay tuned. We're joined now by Josiah Sinanen for his Week's End segment. And I understand you have some encouragement for us to go outside and hang out in nature this weekend. So what little critter would you like us to go see?
Yeah, Meg, well, there's so much to see here in Windsor, but today we're talking about turtles, something that everyone loves. And this week on Afternoon Drive, we were joined by Mike Fisher. He's the interim president of the Friends of Ojibwe Prairie, and he was busy in Ottawa this week when we reached him, testifying at Senate with regards to the National Urban Park that's planned for the Ojibwe complex. And that's where we're taking you today. It's one of my favorite locations to go watch turtles, especially by that pond, and see which turtles are out. And I actually took some videos this past Monday. Let's take a look at those here. So, Meg, very active day at the pond. I was told by Mike that these turtles are red-eared sliders. swimming around there. And we also have some footage of a baby snapping turtle coming up. There he is, pretty cute with the tail there. And that was just a baby one, like I said. So the big guys, that's like a good 6 to 8 inches larger in diameter. They really pack a punch. They're kind of like little dinosaurs. And I'm sure you're an Essex native. You know all about this.
I do. I've been probably up close and snapping turtles too much in my life. We have a pond at home. And what's really interesting about them is they hiss at you when you get too close. Probably a good warning sign, you know?
I did not know that. That's a handy trick, though.
Stay away if they're hissing. What I love also about Ojibwe is it's just so diverse in its ecosystem.
Yeah, Meg, that's a really great point, and we're so lucky to have that in our own backyard, especially at the Ojibwe complex. It's really a unique spot because of that prairie ecosystem, which is very rare in Ontario. So not only do we get a lot of unique nature, but the variety includes some turtles you wouldn't see anywhere else in the province. And some examples are the common musk turtle, the eastern spiny softshell, and the spotted turtle. So only some of those have limited records, but they have been found in that area. So here's Mike Fisher. I'll throw to him. He explained it better on Afternoon Drive.
Within the complex, it's just there's various wetlands that attract them, and you just see so many of them basking in the sun on the logs. So it's just absolutely a fantastic thing for us to be able to have that in our community. And there's nowhere in Ontario you'll find such a concentration of rare species. And with it being highlighted as a National Urban Park, like we're setting an example for the rest of the country in terms of how we're taking care of biodiversity, how we're protecting species. So it's important locally, and now Canada's looking to what Windsor's doing in this area.
Josiah, he mentioned about protecting those rare species. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, well, make some good news. The city is doing a lot lately, and there's also some future plans. So right now, it is the migration month. So you'll probably see turtles, snakes, crossing from the nature center on Matchett Road over to the Prairie Complex. And now there are traffic calming measures with speed indicators, and there's future plans for a crosswalk and some other deterrents. So right now, as we wait for all of that to roll out, it's important to be mindful if you head out to Ojibwe this weekend to watch the road and slow down if you see anything in your path.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much for that, Josiah. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too.
Coming up, a look at a rare lobster that was caught off Canada's east coast. Stay tuned. you have a child on one or more wait lists for daycare, you're far from alone. Data collected by CBC News indicates that demand is sky high across the country for $10 a day childcare. Providers are calling for more funding because their operating costs are rising and demand for daycare outstrips supply. Marina von Stackelberg has the story.
Sherry Rieger's daughters are on 15 childcare wait lists. The family, like many across Canada, is struggling to find a licensed provider.
Some of them are saying that we won't have a spot for 2 or 3 years.
It's been 2 years since the federal government signed its last deal with provinces to spend tens of billions of dollars to create more childcare spots and eventually cut fees parents pay to $10 a day. Daycares have overwhelmingly taken part, and that has caused growing pains.
As childcare has become more affordable, we hear from parents that want to access it, that are having trouble finding spaces.
Providers say they are struggling to operate the spots they already have. The funding hasn't kept up with inflation and the need to pay childcare workers a livable wage.
We do need to take into consideration those costs, and those will only increase as the demand goes up.
As part of the deal, daycares also can't raise their fees, an option they had in the past to offset costs. Some private childcare centres in Ontario who can access those public dollars have threatened to pull out of the program altogether unless they get more money.
The funding will have to rise across the whole sector, but it is not coincidental that this game of chicken is not being played by anybody other than the for-profit sector.
It's hard to know exactly how many childcare spaces are needed. Each daycare has its own wait list and many families are on multiple. But the latest data from Statistics Canada shows half of Canadian families now report struggling to find a spot.
The funding is great. It's a great incentive to get us moms back out to work. But again, if I can't access it, what is the point?
To add to Sherry's anxiety in finding daycare, she's expecting her third child this fall. That baby doesn't have a name yet, but is already on a wait list. Marina von Stackelberg, CBC News, Ottawa.
Nova Scotia fishermen caught a rare yellow lobster off of Pictou Island this week. It's considered a 1 in 30 million catch. He talked to CBC about the one that didn't get away.
Kind of just stopped and said, holy moly, look down this trap here. We're just on the west end of Pictou Island. So all operations kind of came to a standstill, and this it stood out from the rest. It was just a bright yellow lobster, and something I'd never seen before, and neither did they. In 18 years he fished, so it was almost like he just fell in a can of yellow paint, more or less. So first thing was first. Of course, everybody had their cell phones out, and a half dozen pictures or more were taken, and just sat there and admired it, I guess, for the next few minutes, and then carried on, of course.
Where's the lobster now?
It's been turned in. It's going to go to the Northumberland Fisheries Museum on the Pictou waterfront. So it's from what I know is it remains there for the summer and on display so the public can see. And then as far as I know, they release it at a later date.
And how big would that lobster have been?
It was a market size, but it was small. It was probably around the 1 pound range. It was female, and but healthy, and it's just small overall though.
Just yellow.
Just yellow, bright yellow. Yeah, no, it was.
Australia's biggest Festival of Lights started today, turning Sydney's harbour landmarks and cityscape into a showcase of creativity and innovation. Fireworks lit up the night sky as spectators admired an installation at the iconic Sydney Opera House. The installation is an animated projection of work by award-winning artist Julia Gutman. The annual festival runs until June 15th. More than 3 million people attended the festival last year. Well, that's it for CBC Windsor News. Don't forget, for news anytime, you can go to our website at cbc.ca/Windsor. You can also download the CBC News app for stories that matter most to you. And don't forget to watch The National tonight at 9 on CBC News Network, 10 p.m. on the CBC News app and streaming. Thanks so much for tuning in. Looking forward to seeing you back here next week.